Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 74 of the Hardly Millennial Podcast, where we are young, dumb, and full of
ideas.
Opinions.
You got that wrong, Justin. How fucking dare you?
Gotta shake it up a little bit.
Okay, fine.
You never shake up the intro.
Never. Don't you ever, look at me. Don't you ever do that again. Thank you. Appreciate it. Whoa. Love you, though.
Devil emoji, angel emoji.
Eggplant?
With the squirty drops.
Well, I'm Matthew Lynn.
I'm Adam Hansen.
And I am Justin Lunsford.
And welcome, guys. So to get started today, Justin had a question he wanted to present to us on this podcast. He's a little worried because it's something we've talked about before, but I told him don't fucking worry about it. We do a podcast every day. Sometimes you're going to be redundant. So
I'm worried. You never know what you're going to get with this guy.
That's true.
Oh, goodness. You sure don't.
Ask the question, Justin.
Yeah, so it's kind of a scenario, I guess. How would you react in a certain scenario?
Okay.
And really, it's when two people meet, whether they're older or younger, doesn't matter. They're a certain way, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And upon meeting each other, you feel that out. You date, you establish, and then you decide you're going to be together. A lot can happen, in 5, 10, 20 years, and people can legitimately become different people.
Right.
They're different experiences. So, I mean, whether it be physically or, politically or anything like that, at what point does it go from we have to make this work to I'm just not as into as I used to be for these several different reasons? So do you ask them to change? You just jump ship?
So is this, in this scenario, do you still love this person, but you just can't relate to them? Or are you referring to you have fallen out of love with this person because of the differences?
Just imagine this person's great, except I just can't handle that. So let's take physically, for example.
Okay.
Two people meet, they're rather fit or whatever, okay? Well, one of them gets severely overweight. They just get very, very uncomfortable in their relationship. Uh-huh. Everything's good. They don't really go out anymore. They don't have to really please or appeal to anybody. And one of them gets really big, and the other says, I love you, so I want you to be healthy. We have to get this together and make this better. Uh-huh. And they say, yeah, totally. Let's do it. And then eventually you realize it's just not a priority for this person to get themselves together. And it really bothers you. So when is it okay to say, I'm leaving you because you've changed this way and I don't like it?
I would say after you have explored all avenues. So you've personally done everything within your power to try to get this person to change. So maybe that includes you guys, just in this particular hypothetical, you guys, you signed up for, something like Orange Theory, right? Where you have to go every, Monday and Wednesday to do this, or you're, making the effort to be healthier yourself so that they can adhere to that lifestyle with you. But I mean, if you've tried everything and this person just isn't getting over it, well, at some point, maybe that conversation needs to be had. But I think it should be met with warning also, though. So if you find yourself exploring all the avenues, and then you at one point you should sit down with that person and say, look, this is something that really bothers me. Get your shit together or this isn't going to work. And then at that point, if nothing's getting resolved, well, your answer might be made for you at that point.
I just see a lot of people who really insist that you, especially if it's a physical attraction thing, that you're just an asshole if you leave. Mm-hmm. You can't just leave somebody when they are not, appealing to you physically anymore. And I think you can leave somebody if they're not appealing to you physically anymore.
Well, I mean, I would say, from experience, there have definitely been people I have dated whom got less attractive after I was, after we were dating, just because like the comfortability that you were talking about, and to be honest, at least for me, how attracted I was to them didn't necessarily go down because they themselves aesthetically became less attractive because it was somebody whom I really liked, or loved at the time. So, I mean, I think if you truly love somebody, that wouldn't be an issue. And like in the regards of like the physicality, in my opinion, it's one of those things of like, what's the intent behind it? Do you want them to be healthier because you want them to be more aesthetically pleasing to you?
Well,
or do you want them to be healthier for the sake of being healthier?
Well, the argument is not about whether or not they're actually healthy. It's about the fact, that you are physically attracted to them or not.
Well, I mean, let's say it's. But then you can use the argument, let's say it's just a natural age thing, right? So let's say that they have, lived a relatively healthy lifestyle or whatever lifestyle they were living hasn't changed at all. And just with age, they're starting to become less attractive because of, just bad genes, right? At that point, is that a viable decision to be able to make?
I feel like that's taking it to a little bit of an extreme only because at that point the other person will have also aged. I'm talking about somebody is just not physically attractive anymore. So sure, if both people are old, I'm leaving you because I'm not attracted to you anymore because you're an old lady. I mean, I just don't want to be with you anymore. So
you think that's okay?
Well, that's what I'm trying to decide. If someone is not attracted to you, they shouldn't be with you.
I think that a lot of relationships, almost all relationships that span like years and years, they all encounter periods of like boredom or one party or both parties changing and kind of falling out of in love with each other. And I think that most relationships need some kind of outside factor to keep them together. And I think like the three big ones were, for our grandparents and before, it was social factors. It was, you would be judged by society if you split up. So they stayed together for that. I think the other two big ones are kids. You got to stay together for the kids. And then I had another one too. I forgot the one, but it doesn't matter. Basically, there needs to be an outside factor that's like keeping you guys together so that when you feel like you're kind of ready to give up, something else keeps you going and gets you through that. Because usually later on, you get over it and you no longer feel like giving up. You just need something to push you through that lull. So I think if you can't find that outside factor, then you're pretty much going to be doomed to kind of like crumble from within. To not be like too metaphorical, but no, it's gonna break down eventually if you don't have something holding it together.
I do agree with that, but one issue I hold with that,
religion was the other one. Kids and then religion. Sometimes you stay together because you get married and it's religious belief. Yeah, so something like that.
Okay, so the issues, and I think you and I talked about this on a podcast once, Justin, is. To me, the question is, so like I agree with you, Matthew, that when you hit those lulls, especially if you've been with somebody for a while, that's definitely something you should work through, regardless if it's something due to physicality or personality, whatever it is.
But the lulls are...
But that's the question, though, is how long do you try to deal with the lull before you decide that the relationship is no longer going to work? Because I have certainly seen plenty of relationships, and I think we all have, right? Where the girl or guy are staying with the other person, and all they do is complain to their friends, every single time you're with them
that's
about
not
how
fair to
horrible the
anyone,
relationship is. Yeah.
You only have one life to live, so it's a balancing act of you have to do what it takes to keep this relationship going because you love this person,
right?
But you also only have one life, and if you're wasting all of your good years and you're not completely happy, then that's not fair to anyone either.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I mean, we touched a little bit on physical and, like, I guess just on the overall concept. But what about things like a disease or an injury.
Ooh, you're going to be super duper judged by everyone if you leave someone
Right,
after
so,
that.
but
I think that happens all the time.
It's funny you bring that up though, because I do have a couple of friends of mine who are actually in that situation where their significant other has some kind of health disease that they didn't have when they got into the relationship or
Yeah,
got
that's rough,
married,
dude.
and now they are. So now they have to deal with it, right? So I think have very unpopular beliefs as far as that's concerned. I think it is not something that you signed up for. And I personally, like, if I got married to somebody and all of a sudden I got diagnosed with something that basically means, I can like do hardly anything, right? Or constant medical attention,
Right.
whatever it is I personally would not want that girl to stay with me because I would know this isn't what she signed up for. And it's
burden.
not, and it's
it's a
not
huge
her
burden.
job to take care of me.
But what if she truly loves you and says, you talk to her about it, and she says, I fully accept that, Adam, and I want to stay?
I think at first I would argue against it. If it
Right.
was something that she still felt strongly for, I would say, okay, let's do this. But throughout time, if all of a sudden I see that clearly you are not happy or clearly this is weighing on you,
Right.
then I'll make the decision for you at that point. But that is something I feel very strongly about just because of what you said, Matthew. You have one life. And
Yeah.
I think if you are the person who is having the medical issues and you basically, go the lengths of guilt tripping this person to stay with you because, death do us part, I think that's very selfish. And I think if you truly love somebody, you're not going to want to put them through that give them that burden to bear.
I agree. I think we all like to think we'd never be in a position where we choose to leave. But
Dude, it's got to be hard. I mean, if somebody
yeah.
came to me and said, like a perfectly normal person who I didn't judge at all, and they said, I left my husband because he's a vegetable now. I can't deal. I can't do it. Dude, personally, I'm not going to think any less of that person. I'm really not.
I wouldn't
If
either.
anything, I'm going to feel sorry for that person. I'm going to be like, that sucks that your
And I'm
partner is fucked up now.
and I don't think that you're brave for admitting that.
Yeah, honestly, like, better to do that than to tear you and the other person up even more trying to
agree.
stay.
So
That's ridiculous.
What the original point would actually be the complete inverse of this. So not about not, letting somebody go, but more about the leaver, the one that's going to leave. So is it at any point they decide they just don't want to be with someone like, with that disease or whatever, does that make it okay to go? So to you, it does make it okay to go?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's your life to live. It's okay to go. I think what's not okay would be if you have intentions of like playing games. Like, I'm going to leave you so that you get inspired to lose weight and so you can get me back. Like, if you're trying
right.
to play
That's-
games or whatever, then that's not right to do
I
to
agree.
someone.
Yeah.
But if you just say, hey, you gained 150 pounds. I tried for a few months. I can't deal. Better than to stay with the person who you're not attracted to anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But I mean, like, if you find yourself in that situation, I mean, how do you explain that to the person on the receiving end of that? Because the simple argument could be made, shouldn't you just love somebody for who they are? I mean, sure, one of the deciding factors of you being with that person was that you were attracted to them at the time. But I mean, it goes back to my example earlier of like, well, that could apply to just growing old and, maybe you age better than your partner. Maybe your partner ages like a fucking rotten tomato. It's like at that
Are we
point.
being specific to looks, or could it be that
Anything.
what if this person
You were
developed a
really
heroin
rich
addiction?
and now you're really, really poor because you made a lot of stupid decisions and now your money's gone.
I don't know. In cases like that or physicality, I mean, I don't think it's right. I mean, if it's causing strain. Now, let's say it's something like goes even deeper, right? So let's say you as a man, you're with this woman who's like gained a lot of weight since you guys have dated, and now you physically just can't get it up for her because you are not attracted.
That's what I'm
to
talking
her,
about.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, the reason why I'm making that distinction is because I think there are plenty of people who, find themselves in that situation and can still get it up for that girl. They just may not find them physically attracted anymore. Like I said, I have found myself in those situations, but because I do still love the person, like I never find that issue because I'm attracted to them for other things at that point.
But this client that you're talking about, this person would never be in this predicament. So we're not trying to appeal to that person who can still get it up for them and loves them. He would never leave her for not being physically attractive. He has other things invested now. I'm talking about somebody who is past this point. It's gotten to the point where it's hard for them to feel love for this person. They are not physically attracted. They cannot.
I think that this happens all the time with things like clinginess. That's a big one that this happens with. You find someone and you're attracted to them and it goes well. And then you start dating them and you find out that they're insatiably clingy and it just becomes too much and you just can't handle it. And it's still a person who you're attracted to and you like, but the lifestyle and how they act, you just can't handle.
But how long is someone dealing with knowing that someone else is incredibly clingy? Because I feel like those usually end in a short enough time where you can't say it's messed up for leaving. Because I'm thinking of one in particular. Yeah.
Well, going back to the example of physicality, like what?
I'm just laughing at Justin. Sorry.
But going back to this example of physicality, though, I mean, if it is at a point to where you can't get it up for this person, you can't be intimate with this person because of the way they look. Well, that's not, in my mind, that's not just a reflection of they're not attractive anymore. That, to me, that's a reflection of you're not invested in the relationship anymore.
Yeah, but the average person is not going to make that immediate inference. Maybe subconsciously, but
Let's throw like one extra piece of meat into the stew here.
Okay, go.
So I feel like all the examples we're talking about right now are two adults who it's just them. It's just them and their partner. And they've been together a long, long time. And then one of the two, we've been using the example, gains a lot of weight, like 200 pounds. And then you leave them. And we keep coming around to the consensus of live your best life. You only have so much time.
Right.
So pretty much you can leave, right? Now let's throw in kids. So now it's two people who have been together for 10 years. They have two kids, 8 and 4.
That changes a lot of things.
And one of them gains... And let's make it the man. Let's not even make it about pregnancy. Let's say the woman's in shape. She got it together. And the man gains 200 pounds. And now he's 350 pounds.
Right.
And now, go. What do we think about that?
I would honestly react the same, because if you are not truly doing what you think is right... or what is working best for you, what makes you the most happy, you are not doing what's best for your children.
That's hard.
Yeah, and that's just how I feel. I've thought about situations like this a lot where, doing it for the kids. Do kids even have the possibility?
Do kids even comprehend that? Do kids even get that?
Yes, the kids absolutely do. Because divorce inevitably affects children 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So they definitely do.
That's what I'm saying. Would the kids even understand that, mommy's just not attracted to daddy anymore? Or would they just be fucked up that my parents are splitting up? You know what I mean?
Well, they'd be fucked up because their parents are splitting up. It always fucks them up.
Right. 100%. So it becomes a lot less okay to just live your best life for yourself when you have kids.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you're really, really concerned about how you're being viewed by your peers or something, or your community, because long term it's gonna suit these children better, as long as both parents are still involved. It's still a 2-person, it's single motherhood, single fatherhood that makes it hard.
I see. Well, Adam, what do you think, being someone who grew up with both parents?
Well, I have a lot of personal opinions on the matter I don't really want to go into on the podcast.
Oh, okay. All right, my bad.
But in regards to something like like the person not being kids being in the mix, right?
Yeah.
It's, I mean, at some point, to some level, even if either one of you are not into each other, you still owe it on some level to the kids to give it your best shot. But the problem is that we face all the time is, people don't share the beliefs that like you, I, or Matthew share in regards to like health or bettering yourself just aren't beliefs that everybody shares together. So there are some people who, are very willing to say that the reason why maybe they're less attractive or having these issues is because of the kids, right? And you can't blame the kids at that point. So, I mean, like, it really just comes down to if there's issues in a marriage or in a relationship, how much effort do you put into it before you're willing to cut the cord?
Well, I mean, that's a general question to ask.
But I mean, I think that because we keep working on different specific hypotheticals here, but really it's just coming down to how many chances are you willing to give a person before you break up with them.
So I feel like that's circling back to your point earlier of it's a reflection of how invested they are in the relationship. Are you invested enough to really make this weight loss a priority, or to really make how you view my body a priority? Is that what you're saying then?
I mean, yes or no. Like I said, regardless on the issue, it's, they could have an issue that's totally unrelated to those things. But how much effort do you give in to somebody who you once claimed to be in love with before you decide that you can't take any more of it? At what point does it even matter? So if we're going with the example of you having kids, right?
Right.
At what point does it become more toxic to stay with your partner than it would be to leave for the children?
Oh.
When there's harm happening, I would say for sure. I don't know if maybe it happens a little before that, but
I think
definitely at that
before
point,
that.
that's definitely a point. If any physical harm is happening.
If being with your spouse is going to give what you feel is a healthy example of what a relationship can look like for them in their future, you should stay together. If you do not have that capability, you should split, because I think that there is a great chance that each parent, if they were to remarry, has a possibility of showing that child what a healthy marriage or a healthy relationship could look like. Unfortunately, there's also double possibility that they can see two really, really, really horrible relationships, but sticking with one that's most certainly
there's also the
unhappy
desensitization over time of generations upon generations growing up in families that have divorce happening.
Oh, for sure.
Those kids become desensitized, are more prone to do it when they become adults and pass the trait on to their kids.
But it's because they never saw
toxic.
what a healthy marriage looked like.
Well, I don't think there's any such thing as what we're picturing a healthy marriage. There's no perfect marriage.
But
there's
to your
obstacles
children,
in
it
every
should
single
look
one.
perfect. To your children,
Yeah, it's a facade.
Yeah, it always is.
Absolutely.
Like,
you don't curse around them
parents
either.
know everything, and then you think they don't know anything, and then you go through a period where you're like, wow, they actually know everything.
Well, I think you're doing your kids a disservice if you put on a facade around them. Because it's the same thing that happens with a lot of kids when they grow up watching TV and seeing these perfect picture families on TV. They go, oh, that's how it's supposed to be like. So now imagine what you're doing to these kids. If you really aren't having the best relationship with your wife or husband, but you're putting on this facade for kids, then they grow up, they're like you in a lot of ways. They start having these issues and they can't figure out what's wrong, why they can't have a picture family or picture perfect family like they did growing up.
Well, there's a lot of things you didn't know about your parents' marriage growing up that was probably for the better. That's all I'm saying is problems that are not a child's problem should not be a child's problem. So if...
Oh, yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Oh, just as far as, like, putting on this facade like everything's all right when something may not be all right. I mean, you don't have to give your kids details.
Right.
But, I mean, don't be, lovey-dovey on on each other if you guys really aren't feeling it. Like,
I was just saying a
points.
healthy relationship.
Right.
Your children should be able to emulate your relationship and feel that they're doing something healthy. You should strive for that. No one's
Right.
perfect, but you're not telling your children they have to be perfect either. Just good people.
Do you think that when you make a commitment to somebody to marry them, that you should, putting physical abuse aside, do you think that those two people should work to keep that marriage together until death do them part?
No.
No?
No way. I mean,
So then what's the point of marriage in the first place?
legalities. That's truly what I think it's about. Business transaction. And sometimes it really works for you, and then you should get married. I believe that people can get married and have that symbolize it for them, but you shouldn't hold someone to a standard where if they marry someone when they're 18 years old and, on drugs or even something else, they were fresh out of a relationship where the other person, say, died, and they remarried quickly because they were lonely and didn't get to really know the person.
Right.
I don't think leaving that person is immoral at all. I don't think that's doing anything wrong. Ideally, we would love for all marriages to last forever, but I wouldn't hold it against somebody for not really trying to stick it out. I think that's everyone's own journey.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I understand the legality stuff behind it. I get that, and the tax incentive. I've just never understood if you're going to get into a relationship and just kind of have that mindset that if it doesn't work out, well, I could just get a divorce at some point. I just don't see ever a point to getting married then.
I don't think anyone's ever gotten married with that mindset.
Well,
I think when you
of
get
course
married,
not, but-
I think when you get married, you always think, no, this is it. Like, I can't believe I finally found the person. This is going to be amazing. You never think it's going to be bad. You think it might be hard, but you never think it's going to be bad. But sometimes it's bad. Sometimes sometimes it's just bad.
Right.
I think that if you don't have religious beliefs, then there's very little reason to ever even get married.
Yeah.
What's the point? After 7 years of being together, at least in most states, the legality
law,
part is
anyway,
already
yeah.
covered anyway for taxes and whatnot.
I like the romance of it. I love it.
I mean, you can have just as whatever. If there's not really any sacred belief, there's no religious connotation of like why you're becoming in holy matrimony with someone, then what's the point? Really, marriage is just a title with some symbolic jewelry. It's
Right.
it's
And
just flair.
legalities.
Yeah, but I mean the legalities come with time anyway. I don't know. There's not a lot of incentive to be married, really, other than if you're religious.
Right.
What
I think if you're
you are
religious,
in the
it matters a lot.
military and you are going to be stationed across the world, and you can only bring your girlfriend or your boyfriend if you're married to them.
Then get married. I'm sure there's lots
Those are
of
the
specific
legalities I'm talking
scenarios.
about.
That's great. I think it's a shame if people get married just for that. That's a terrible shame. They should find another word for it or something. Because at that point, there's absolutely no sanctity to being married whatsoever. Marriage is a total joke and a facade.
Well, that's, yeah. Well, I think it is. So just use it to your
Well, I
advantage.
think that a lot of people and where marriage came from in the first place was a very religious background, was from a spiritual place. I think for a lot of religious people, marriage matters a lot. And for people who are not religious, it obviously means absolutely nothing. Because really, it's just a title with some bling bling.
Right.
But where it actually matters and how it's held through all these ages is because of religion.
If it was just a religious thing, I hardly think that the LBGT community would have striven
They just want to be equal.
so hard to achieve it. And it's not just about being equal.
It's totally about being equal. It's
no,
about whatever
not.
it takes to get the same equal title as other
That's
people.
not what it's about. It's about things like if your partner's in the hospital, their parents can go in and see them by law, but you cannot.
It's legalities again.
Exactly, but those are important legalities.
I think that it's a shame to tie so many legalities to a spiritual belief.
Right, but well, unless it doesn't become... Well, you can, if you would like, think it's a shame because you're choosing to look at it from a spiritual side. But if you're not looking at it at all from a spiritual side, it still has value, just not spiritual value.
Yeah, it just becomes like doing taxes or anything else. It's just, I don't know. Personally, I look at it from a religious standpoint, my belief system, and that's a shame that people have done that to it.
So if you found yourself in a marriage and you felt that the marriage like wasn't working out for whatever reason, would you stick through it just because of religious belief?
Yeah, if there's no physical harm happening, that's what I've been taught, and that's the example I've always seen. That's what my parents did.
Yeah.
So yeah. I also don't think I'll ever get married, though.
Right.
Not just being a young person saying that, but truly, I have very little interest unless I found, like Justin said, unless I found Disneyland.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't ever get married.
Good. Everybody, everyone
because,
should wait for Disneyland. Thank you.
It does mean so much to me that I would probably, even if I found someone, I would just be with them for a long time.
Right.
I would avoid the marriage part because I'm just not good with commitment, and it would really break my heart personally to get a divorce, just because of my beliefs.
I think getting a divorce is always a very clear indication of a failed marriage, and I don't think anybody wants to be associated with a failed marriage.
For sure.
I don't even think that has to be religious, but I think that you should be able to look at marriage from a religious standpoint, and that should be completely respected as well.
Yeah, for sure.
As somebody who claims that they are currently in love, Justin,
Yes.
is love work? Should love be work?
So, in a perfect world, no, love should not be work, but I mean, it is what it is, right? There are certain things you're willing to do for it, and I feel like you'll know where those limits are. Love for me, this past, say, few weeks, has been work. It has definitely been work, but it's not like I didn't think it merited the work. It was like, sometimes you really hate the fact that you have to do it because you shouldn't have to do it, and it's not your fucking priority, and it's not your problem. But sometimes you're like, well, it is what it is. Let's do it.
I think that relationships are work. Like, not to be, it's not that I'm splitting hairs here about the word we're using. I'm really not. It actually matters. I think that to say love is work is wrong. It's relationships, and being consistent with another human being is a lot of work. And if anything, I think love truly is the force that keeps you willing to do that work over and over and over.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I will absolutely say that.
If the love goes away, there's no point in doing the work anymore. Right. You know what I mean? And I think truly, as much as you can fall in love, you really can just wake up one day and fall out of love. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that really can be like a switch?
That is a major, phobia of mine. Because
like you're really afraid of that happening?
Well, I'm afraid of the possibility because it's not something that anyone ever wanted.
Oh, no.
Exactly.
Even the person it happened to might not want it.
Oh, I think that's usually the case. I think people wish they could still be in love with somebody.
They probably try to force themselves to be.
Exactly. So that's a huge fear of mine because in sound, mind, and body, I know that could never happen.
Right.
But if there's ever a variable in there that no one could ever predict and no one knew how to react to, then there could be a switch.
Dude, I think it can happen. I think that just like anything else, not to be silly, but to relate it to your favorite, you could fucking love strawberries. And then one day you're just fucking sick of them. Yeah. Or you just don't like malt balls anymore. Or, and I think it's true with anything. I don't think it happens often, but some people really do just find themselves in this situation where it's a struggle because they've built this life and they don't want to destroy this life, but their feelings really have just changed.
Well, and I think the reason why that happens to anyone is because I think, love's greatest enemy is the mundane. So I think what happens to a lot of people when they get into these relationships with these people that they claim they're in love with is they get into it, and then what do? They're like, okay, I'm done, right? There's no more to, keep up with my,
done putting effort
hygiene,
in. Yeah.
physical, because I found somebody,
Yeah.
And I think that's what ends up killing a lot of relationships. because either way, let's say both of you decide, okay, we're done, and you're just kind of going about the motions, day per day, day by day. Well, at some point, both of you are going to get in your own lulls, and that's going to cause tension between you. Or, the worst thing can happen, somebody keeps growing and the other person gets left behind. And then the relationship really goes downhill fast from there. I think it's important to, meet somebody whom you're kind of at the same spot in your lives with, because at that point, you guys end up growing together rather than somebody just, as I said, getting left behind.
What do you guys think about like meeting the right person at the wrong time? So like, let's say you meet the right person, but you guys are young and you don't drive yet and you live across town and it just never ends up working. But now life goes on and you've left that perfect person in the dust because of a stipulation in your life. Do you think that just means they weren't really the right one because the right one would never come to you at that time? Or do you think that you really pass up the right one sometimes because of where you are?
Well, it's a tough question to answer, because I would say that if you go the rest of your life and you never meet somebody whom you feel as strongly about as that person that you felt you got left behind, well then, yes, that person was the one and you just met them at the wrong time. But I think what happens...
Why would life do that, though? That's so shitty of life to do that.
Well, I think it's just a matter of there are just so many people in this world that everybody meeting that person. Yeah.
It's because you deserved it.
You think so, really? You think it's karma?
I don't think it's karma, but I think everyone is where they deserve to be. It's the choices you made earlier in your life. If you met somebody, but you were in a deep state of alcoholism, and then you got sober and you were never able to find them again, you deserve that. You put yourself in a position where you were not at the right place at the right time. So,
well, I mean, I don't think that's fair, because
what if you're not the one with the issue, though? What if you're...
I mean, what if neither one of you have an issue? It's just simply because you guys just met the wrong. Maybe one person's still in college and the other person's been out of college for 3 years. Something as simple as that.
Mm-hmm. Or one person, you're going into college and you guys have a great relationship, and one person decides that they need 2 years to go party.
So what's the question? Why do you deserve that? Or why does life do that?
Well, you said if it doesn't work out, then it's because you deserve it.
Yeah. Well, it could be something good. It could be something bad. But I just feel like everyone is getting exactly what they needed to have at that moment. No one's ever been broken up with or broke up with somebody and didn't know exactly what they could do better or do differently. You always can figure that out. You always go, fuck, well, I should have done this, or gosh, I should have.
No, I don't think that's true. I don't agree. I think most of the time that's true. I think sometimes you're truly blindsided by it. I think sometimes
and then afterward,
you think,
you still
what the fuck
just
happened?
have no clue what you could have done differently or what they could have done differently.
Yeah, sometimes it's out of your power. Sometimes people make choices for you. And it's shitty, but it happens.
But that's if that's the case, and it's a horrible person who did it, then that is what you deserve.
But the thing is
it's going to do you better.
But the thing is, I don't think that necessarily equates to there was something differently you could have done in the relationship. I think it's just natural causation of what happens to you when you're, in this case, broken up with. You're automatically going to make, what the fuck did I do wrong? And you're going to keep asking yourself that question until you're able to answer it for yourself. Because that the whole, like, did you deserve it question or statement or not completely goes out the window if you stay with that person,
But what if part of that person's journey is they need to go do something with their life and you can't be a part of that? And because of that, you don't get a choice. They make the choice for you because they need to go do what they need to do.
I think you guys, I think the word deserve might be a little harsh.
Well, there's only one definition, so what context are you using it?
Or it's the right thing to happen to you. Because the question, backtrack. The question is, how could life let that happen?
Yeah, so originally I asked, do you think that you can meet the right person in the wrong time? And Adam agreed that, yeah, that can happen. And I agree also. And I said, how could life let you meet the right person at the wrong time?
And
That's
what
shitty.
I'm saying is
they weren't the right person.
Either they weren't the right person or you had to learn something about that missed opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, at least I do enjoy the comfort of thinking it's a lesson. That does comfort me a little. At least it's not meaningless then. You know what I mean? To think that there's a lesson behind it, it does bring some comfort.
In mid-30s, I'm not like necessarily old. Someone in their 50s could listen to this and think you're an idiot, but I've just looked back and I've always felt that something happened to me in order to set me up in a different way. There's a lot of things I wish I could have done differently, but 99% of those things that I wish I could have done differently would have stopped me from meeting.
Did any of those things take you a really, really long time to figure out?
Yes.
Like, was there like years, like 10 plus years where some of those things you were like, I don't know why that happened to me. I can't figure. And then you just ended up figuring it out after time.
I mean, they're all different. But yes, I've had one thing that took me 10 years to figure out, all right, let it go.
While you were going through it, you just thought it wasn't fair. You're like, why would life do this?
Yeah.
Okay. Course. So I think people have those moments. So what you're saying is as an older person, 10 years older than me, there comes a point with all of those where if you chew on them long enough, you cope with them after a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm assuming that something redeeming happens in someone's life. I mean, there's the extreme, right? Mm-hmm. Why did life let this happen to me? And then you just keep getting shat on forever and you never catch a break until you die. Okay, right. Sure.
But I mean, after a certain point, you understand all the things that have happened to you.
Yeah.
And you find some meaning in them, is
Absolutely.
What you're saying.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's reassuring. Mm-hmm. As a younger person, as someone who's 12 years younger, that's very reassuring because I still have things in my life that have happened to me that I guess I'm still chewing on. That in my mind, it seems like there's no good reason why that would happen.
I talk about self-love a lot, and I feel like once you discover self-love, you figure out why everything happened and why it had to happen like that.
Interesting.
I think too, in regards to meeting somebody at the wrong time or at the right time, I don't think that there's just one person out there for all of us.
Oh, totally. I agree with that completely.
I would say, let's say the entire, just for scaling, let's just say the entire world's population is 1,000 people, and I believe there's 50 of those people
you're compatible enough with to call them the one
and be happy with.
And be happy. I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
And I think what ends up happening through our lives when we get into different relationships is I think we meet different ones. Uh-huh. And the only reason why you're able to make it work with that one at that time is simply because you guys met at the right moment. Whereas if you guys met 2 years down the line, relationship may not have ever happened, Mm-hmm. There are definitely girlfriends whom I reconnect with now who I dated years ago who, I'm still friends with, but I definitely look at them and go, if I met you now, it would have never happened between us. And that's why I also believe that there are different kinds of love. And I've mentioned this before,
mm-hmm.
I'll never love somebody the same way I loved the first girlfriend, the second girlfriend, so on and so forth. So I think it's just one of those, if you keep those kind of things in mind of, I met this person, it didn't work out, it must have been the wrong time. Maybe they were, one of the ones. But I think dwelling on the fact that you let that one get away, you're going to miss all the opportunities that come your way in the future if you just decide that person was it. And now you're missing out on all these other variations in spectrum of love that you could have had or felt beforehand that now you're denying yourself. And I don't think that's fair to anybody.
Yeah, especially not anybody especially not anybody after the fact. Mm-hmm. You're comparing it to one thing.
Do you think you have to choose between love and success? Ultimately?
Yes.
Like, I know you can have a little bit of both, but like true love or true success, do you have to choose?
I think at first, yes.
I mean monetary success, by the way.
I think those...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think those are two things that are very hard to sustain together. I think it's either you're in love with somebody and you both grow together to be successful people, or you work on yourself becoming successful, and then you allow love into your life.
You almost have to like fall in love with someone or fall in love with yourself.
Kinda, yeah.
As vain as that sounds.
But that's why I also think it's important to especially in our young years, to be selfish, because too many people, I think, their end goal is to just meet somebody and start a family. Well, what does that mean, though? That means you meet somebody and you're like, okay, I'm done. And we just talked about that, right? And that's toxic. Right. Whereas if you're on a path in the woods and you keep deviating, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel on the path that you're on, but you keep deviating off the path to go meet, girls or a guy, well, it's going to take you longer to get that end result, and you're never going to get there. But if all of a sudden you're on this path, and now here comes a girl coming right up next to you, walking around along that same path, well, it's going to be a longer lasting relationship, because now you guys get to walk the path together, instead of deviating from the path and being like, okay, well, we're going to try this way over here. So now you're getting off your path to go onto somebody else's, and that's toxic too.
Why does I've never been under the impression that you have to choose between one or the other, or that they were ever difficult to sustain together.
Here, let me reword it a little bit, because I know you're having trouble with it here. So let's say as a young person up and coming, let's say you're 20 years old, okay? Do you have to choose when you're a young person who is establishing themselves in life? Oh. Do you have to choose between seeking out love and having that path in life, or seeking out fame and fortune and having that path in life?
Okay,
and can the two paths intermingle?
What are we talking about? Like over 150 grand success?
Dude, we're talking about, could Beyonce have been Beyonce if she met a boy in high school and fell in love with him and had 2 kids? That's what I'm talking about.
Oh.
Do you have to choose between love and family or success, or can you have both?
Sorry, I was thinking it from a very realistic
like super success, famedom.
Oh.
Can you achieve that level?
No.
While being in love?
No, absolutely
no way, right?
Not. No. You need to be in love with your career, and find love when you're there, because that's when it's going to be hardest to maintain love.
I agree. Yeah. I think that in a young person's life, whether male or female, they end up making a choice, subconsciously or not, of my life's going to be about me, or my life's going to be about me and someone else. Personally, what do you think, Adam?
I was just going to say, because, I was looking at it from a much lower scale. I'm like, nah, dude, when you get married, you have 2 incomes. And everyone's a lot more comfortable.
We're thinking grand here.
Okay, never mind. I was definitely missing the boat there, because I'm thinking like enormous success.
Enormous success.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think, this is going to kind of be out of the box, but I've thought about it a lot. Do you think that in order to find true love, whatever true love means to you, the individual, do you think in order to find true love, the key to finding it is to not look for it?
Yes. Absolutely.
So do you think that if you're constantly looking for that, you're never going to find it?
Absolutely. And you're going to find a whole bunch of garbage along the way. You're going to find a lot of fool's gold. Because you're just hoping it's that. You're hoping it's that. You know what I mean? Like, we've touched upon this in a number of different ways. And I just feel like I'm going to circle back one more time to self-love, because if you're really trying to develop yourself, you're not looking out for anything else, and you're going to meet the best kind of person, because they are going to be doing the same thing. So, going out and looking for it, I have found is one way to absolutely destroy the possibility. However, I have a friend, close friend of mine. We went to college together. She went on Match.com and matched with the guy, the first one, went on a date with them after the next day, and they are married, and this was a very long time ago, and they have a child, and he's beautiful, and they own a home. So, that goes against anything I ever would have thought, okay? But she was looking, he was looking, they found immediately, and it was perfect. Okay, so is it true for everybody? Nah.
Match.com doesn't sponsor us, by the way.
No, but that was pretty incredible. That was pretty incredible. So I think that's defying a lot of odds myself. I definitely think you should 0% be looking for love, not avoiding love. If you want to be really sexually active but not looking for love, do it that way. Who knows? You might find someone that really makes things work for you.
So I agree to a little slightly lesser extent. I agree that it's very difficult to force it, almost impossible. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try.
I'm not saying to force it. I'm
But
just
to find
saying
it,
like,
to go out and
there
seek it and find
date.
it.
I do
Yeah.
not think you should try.
I think you should try. I think you should at least try. If you're in a stable place in your life and you feel like the only thing that you need to add on to the top for icing is love, then you should go out and seek it. You should go try to live your best life. But I do 100% agree that good luck. You're not. It's very, very difficult. You have to be very, very lucky to force or just stumble across, like to seek it out and find it. I think the healthiest relationships are total accidents.
Yeah, well, that
Yes.
was why I asked the question, because I mean, when I think back
should
to
try.
the serious relationships I've had over the years, you know, every serious relationship I've been in happened with girls whom I wasn't trying to, you know, find
Dude, that
anybody
always
at
happens.
the time. Yeah,
Every girl I've ever been with, truly,
just shows
is
up.
a
right?
girl looking back on it where you think, I never ever thought I'd be with her.
Yeah.
She's not a girl who I had a particular crush on before I found out she liked me. It wasn't a girl I seeked out. It was, I did nothing. They stumbled across me and picked me.
To me, it wasn't.
There hasn't been a lot of them, but that's how they've all
Right.
gone.
Well, like in my experiences, it wasn't even like a sense of like this girl's like totally like I wouldn't, you know, have ever like dated her type of thing. It's just like, but like they'll just all of a sudden like, and it's always at the times when I'm not looking, you know, they'll all of a sudden it's like, oh, perfect example. You remember the girl I dated when I was living in Los Angeles?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So her I
sounds
met.
lovely.
She was a very lovely
She was
girl.
lovely.
But she
Very
was
beautiful, I might add.
Yes, very beautiful. But she was a girl whom I met, and I wasn't looking for anybody at the time. You know, very much last thing. You know,
You were
on
actually
my
very
head.
trying to avoid that.
Yes, exactly. And then all of a sudden, I had a friend who I worked on a film set with who was just like, hey, I have a friend moving down to Los Angeles and just needs, you know, a contact down there. And I was like, oh, well, I'll be that contact.
I'll be the contact.
And then I met her, and then like 4 days later, we were dating, and we lasted for quite a while, you know, but like, you know, totally unexpected, wasn't looking for it. And there's similar stories for, you know,
she
the other
brunette?
two.
I imagine her as a brunette.
She was a brunette.
She was, wasn't she? I know what you like.
So now there's, so now she, you know, but she was somebody who just came, you know, just came out of nowhere, and I can, for the other two serious relationships that I've had were always similar stories. It was never looking, particularly the first one, like who I was in my first love, right, was during a time when I was in high school. Like 2 years up before meeting her, I was like, oh, I really just want a girlfriend, right? And I'm telling you, I like made this decision one day of fuck it, I'm gonna be single, fuck all you bitches, right? And then a month later, I met her. And then we were dating, and it was like one of my longest lasting relationships. So it's just, I mean, that's why I asked that question. It was just my experiences and from my beliefs, as same as you, Just, is I truly think in order to find somebody, you can't be looking for it.
I think that it is your obligation, because I agree, you shouldn't go look for it, but it's your obligation to put yourself in situations where you're going to find the kind of person that you want to be with. I mean, if you want a nice stand-up guy, then don't go walking around prisons. You know what I mean? Like, just to be totally outrageous. But it's your obligation to put yourself in a place where you have a better chance of finding the person that you want to be with.
I think the way to look at it is always put yourself in amazing places.
Yeah, and you always find amazing people, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
I just think you should focus on making yourself as interesting and cool and different and you know, passionate and whatever as possible, and inevitably those types of people will be in there, you know. And there was a joke when I lived in the west side of Los Angeles. There's a Whole Foods there.
Good old Whole
Foods is great.
There's a Whole Foods, and it's the biggest Whole Foods on the West Coast. It's an enormous Whole Foods. There's like raw food cafes inside this Whole Foods. Okay,
Of course there is.
Sounds lovely.
So it wasn't bad. I was into it. So the joke was, if you wanted to get a boyfriend, just put on some nice clothes and walk around inside Whole Foods. And that's just like it's an exaggerated version of what you were saying, you know?
Put yourself where the people are that you want to be with.
Exactly. So, but shouldn't it be like, just make sure you do your shopping at Whole Foods? Should it really be go walk around Whole Foods and pretend like you're shopping?
Hey, you got to do something with your day. If you're shopping at Whole Foods, it means you're well off. You got to do something.
Not if you're walking around it. That's why everyone's skinny, because you have to pay $80 for 4 things.
Right.
And that has to last you till you get paid.
Well, you're not wrong. We were just talking earlier about how expensive it is to live in Los Angeles and what
Who was talking about that?
Oh, maybe you weren't here.
I was talking about it. Do you have a problem with that?
Well, you wouldn't know because you've never like been there.
I know pretty much everything about everything. Have you met me before?
So I've heard.
We were talking about it with our guest from Los Angeles.
Well, I was talking about it with like 70 plus hours of footage of this guy talking. Trust me, I know. Oh, I said it.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you guys so much for listening to us talk about love today. As you can probably tell for listening to these podcasts, we have a lot of opinions when it comes to love. So you'll probably hear us talk about it more again. So I hope you fucking enjoy it. If you don't, I don't care. We're going to do it anyway. We're going to do it anyway. I'm sorry. I got angry. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening today. Follow us on all the social media platforms. We have a Patreon, www.patreon.com/Hardly Millennial. Thank you. Thank you. Love you. Any final thoughts, Matthew?
Thanks for joining us today, Justin. It was a good one.
It was an honor once again.
We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Bye.